Lord Draken is back for revenge. Welcome to the Comicstorian Full Story channel, where we take old and new Comicstorian full stories and we put them in one central location for you to watch. Today, we are covering the Power Rangers crossover event from 2018 known as Shattered Grid. This was a crossover between the mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Sabban's Go-Go Power Rangers to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the original TV series. This is the 5 volumes of Shattered Grid.
In the not-so-distant future, the city of Angel Grove witnessed their first crisis at the hands of a woman named Rita Repulsa, who wanted to conquer Earth. Rita sent monsters down to destroy the city, but not long after, the city received their heroes, the Power Rangers. The Rangers fought off these monsters, and when Rita attempted to power up her army, the Rangers called on their robots, the Dino-Zords, to stop her. With the Rangers stopping her plans, Rita thought that she needed something just as powerful to fight the Rangers, so she created one of her own, the Green Ranger. But just as the Green Ranger seemed to be too much for them, something happened, and the Green Ranger started to work with the rest of the Rangers to stop more monsters from attacking the city. This is where our story begins, in the Angel Grove High School, with the Pink Ranger Kim and the Green Ranger Tommy discussing that even though it's been a busy week, they should probably continue their training. Kim suggests that maybe after their training, they could go get a cup of coffee afterwards, and just as Tommy says sure, the bell rings and Kim says assuming they can even make it through class first. A little while later, all of the Rangers sit for lunch as the Black Ranger, Zach, tells everyone that he may have gotten detention for sleeping in class, and the Red Ranger, Jason, will be joining him since he tried to defend him. The Yellow Ranger, Trini, says that while they're serving their time, her and Billy will go back and run some diagnostics on Tommy's Dragon Zord and see why it hasn't been responding to him lately. Meanwhile, up on the moon, Rita sits with her minions discussing their last encounter and their attempt to charge the crystal. The chaos energy created by the Dragon Zord in defeating their last monster did charge it, but in order to bring it to its full strength, they're going to need more energy. Elsewhere, back on Earth, Kim and Tommy have begun their training as Tommy fights a huge group of putties and Kim fights off a giant beast. Zordon tells Tommy that he's running out of time. The civilian group with him has sustained injuries and they won't survive much longer. He needs to find a path to get them to safety. Tommy calls out for everyone, telling them that he's got a game plan for them. They're going to cut through the streets to avoid his partner while she fights off that giant monster over there. However, as Tommy leads the civilians away, he leads them right into another putty ambush, and in the back of his mind, he can hear Rita taunting him as the putties slowly start taking out the civilians. Tommy screams no, and Rita says, "You did this! This is all your fault! They counted on you and you failed them!" Shortly after the simulator ends, Kim tells him to not be so hard on himself, and Zordon explains that this training sequence was designed for failure. They needed to gauge how he deals with defeat, and Tommy tells him he wants to do it again. He can do it better, and he wants to do it alone. He then turns to Kim, stating that he knows that they're supposed to go get coffee after, but she tells him she gets it, no big deal. Later that night, Tommy heads back home and he goes straight to his room, and as he lays on his bed, he asks himself, what do the Power Rangers mean to him? Suddenly, a sword appears at his throat, and a voice tells him, don't waste too much time on that, you've only got a few minutes left. Rita's minion, Scorpina, has her blade at Tommy's throat, telling him, we can make this a lot easier if you just give back what isn't yours. Give back the power coin and you can live. Outside his room, his mother calls out, stating that she knows that he's tired, but he should eat something, and inside, Scorpina says, maybe if you don't want to cooperate, your mother can persuade you. Maybe we should ask. But before she can finish, Tommy knocks the blade away as he hits his teleporter, grabbing a hold of Scorpina and sending them both out into the woods. As they appear out there, Scorpina tells him, this is perfect, an isolated location, and then grips down on his communicator, breaking it, telling him, and now you have no way to call for help. Tommy kicks her away and he shouts, it's Morphin time! And he holds out his power coin and begins to change. Once he changes into the Green Ranger, he tells her that if she wants his power coin, she's gonna have to come and get it. She swings her sword and Tommy deflects it with his dagger, and then he punches her back. As she steps back and gets up, she tells him, one of us is a proven warrior, the other is a child, and she disappears. She reappears, striking Tommy in the back, and while he's down, the putty begin to appear, and she tells them, let's see how long he can even last. Elsewhere in the town, Kim goes to visit Jason as he finishes up his karate class when they get a call from Zordon telling them that something is wrong. Tommy needs their help. Back in the woods, Tommy begins fighting off the putty, but while he defeats more and more of them, Scorpina tells herself that he's fighting just as they knew he would, waging one more war. And that's why he was chosen in the first place. But what he doesn't know is that every blow he makes, it aids their cause. He's making the Chaos Crystal that much stronger. Their goal isn't just to steal the coin. They need Tommy to fight and create chaos energy. But as the fight goes on, Scorpina is attacked. From the woods, Jason and Kim jump out firing their guns, while Kim asks why they can't take a hit. Tommy is done with them. Jason fights off Scorpina while Kim frees Tommy from the putty. And just as Zach arrives, Scorpina decides that it's time for her to leave. Once free, Tommy chases after her while everyone tells him to wait, but the further he runs, he sees that she's gone. And the voice of Rita tells him, "Try not to beat yourself up too much over this one. The others probably wouldn't have come to save the Red Ranger. You're no Jason, Tommy." As Jason and the rest of the Rangers finish up the putties, Tommy returns and Jason tells him, "I'm sorry, I wish we would have gotten here sooner." But Tommy lashes out to him stating, "I was blindsided. I'm sure you think you could have done better." Jason tells him to relax. He knows that he did everything that he could, but Tommy smacks his hand away stating, "I know what you're saying." Back at the command center, the Rangers talk with Zordon about the recent events with Rita attacking Tommy directly, but Tommy tells everyone that she can do what she wants. She won't get the power coin or the Dragon Zord. Kim then says, speaking of, were Billy and Trini able to figure out what's wrong with the Dragon Zord and why it's not listening to Tommy? Billy explains that after their testing, everything seems to run fine as far as he can see. It just stopped listening to Tommy when he calls for it. Zordon says the Zords are connected to each of them. They must feel as comfortable with their users as their users do with them. And as the conversation goes on, Tommy begins to feel weak and then he collapses. A few moments later, Tommy awakes from a nightmare with everyone sitting around asking if he's okay. Trini checks his pulse and says that his heart rate is still up. Maybe they should run a power scan just to make sure nothing weird is going on. And Zordon tells her that that would be most wise. Up on the moon, Rita is watching as Tommy slowly begins to lose control. But all things are going according to their plan. The battle with Tommy drove him to his limits and the crystal is fueled by green chaos energy. With one final attack, the crystal will have enough strength to open up the portal. Scorpina asks if they were to attack, they would need the dragon dagger. And Rita tells her, no. We don't need that dragon dagger. We need a dragon dagger. The putty bring in one of the defeated ones, struck by Tommy's dagger, and Finster pours a liquid into its chest, making a copy from the original imprint. Although it will be very unstable, it will serve its purpose. Down in the command center, Trini begins to run her tests on Tommy, talking with him to try and keep him calm, but before they can get started, they begin to hear a loud thumping coming from outside. The two of them run outside along with Alpha to see what's going on, and suddenly the ground shakes as the Dragon Zord bursts out of the ground, destroying Alpha. Trini asks but Tommy says, "I didn't call anything," and the two of them begin to change into their Ranger forms. Tommy tries to teleport inside, but it's like something is blocking him from entering. Trini jumps into her Zord and she begins to fight off the Dragon Zord, but as the battle goes on, the Dragon Zord overpowers her, slamming her into the ground. The Dragon Zord then begins to hear something. The music that Tommy uses to call upon it, and it leans down to him. While he plays, the Dragon Zord lets out a massive roar, and it lunges at Tommy. And then Tommy wakes back up, lying on the table in the lab. Trini tells him that everything is fine, just lay back down, they're almost done. But when she goes back to the results from the scan, she notices something. Everyone gathers back at the command center and Trini goes over the results, first showing everyone what the power scan would normally look like with someone like Jason. However, Tommy's scan is off the charts. Billy says that the dragon coin isn't tied to the Morphin grid like theirs are, but there is way too much disparity in this. Zordon tells everyone there that there isn't much they know about the Green Ranger's powers. These results could simply be Tommy still getting used to them, and Zach asks if it could be Rita still messing with him. But Kim says it can't be her. She had the coin once, but the powers didn't come from her. Besides, Tommy would be able to tell if she was still messing with him, right? And everyone turns to Tommy, and he tells them, "Actually, just after you broke Rita's spell over me, I've been having these flashes. But eventually, they became more as she started talking to me." Jason then asks why he kept this a secret, and he says he thought he can handle it. But Jason tells him that he could have put them all in danger. Right now, he's not ready, and that's when the alarms go off. Out in the ocean, Scorpina reports back that everything is working. With Finster's dagger in the crystal, she has full control of the Dragon Zord, and she's in position to embark on the final assault. The Rangers all see Scorpina in the cockpit of the Dragon Zord, but based on the reading that Billy is looking at, the power reading coming back is not coming from the Dragon Dagger. Tommy says that he should try and teleport in, but Alpha tells him that whatever Scorpina is using, it's interfering with their teleportation frequencies. And Jason tells him that he's not in any shape to fight anyway. So for now, they're going to go take care of this, and then they're going to move forward as they work as a team. So for now, Tommy's going to stay behind and take it easy. All of the other Rangers teleport out, calling on their Dinozords, and they begin to move out, and Scorpina continues trampling through the city when suddenly a chain fires out, grabbing the Dragon Zord's leg. As she looks back, she sees Billy's Triceratops pulling back on the Dragon Zord, slowly dragging her back into the ocean. Up on the moon, Rita's watching, but Finster tells her not to worry. "I will create the perfect distraction!" And he pulls down a lever. With a loud boom going off, lightning strikes the water, and then from the waters, a giant shark creature appears, biting through the chains connecting the Triceratops to the Dragon Zord. Kim and Jason begin their attacks, but while this is going on, Tommy watches the whole thing from the command center. As he's watching, he hears Rita telling him that he's just sitting back on the sidelines again, aren't you? Tommy looks at her and he tells her, you know what? Instead of listening to you, I'm gonna be the one who talks, and right now, you're still just me. Maybe I wasn't ready to let go of you. Maybe I'm even afraid, but not anymore. The only way you have power over me is if I give you the power over me, and I'm sick of doing that. The image of Rita begins to fade, and Tommy turns back to Zordon, telling him, I can't just sit here. I've got the real dragon dagger, and that means that I still have a chance of controlling the Dragon Zord. Back in the ocean, the battle goes on, but then everyone sees Tommy teleport on the head of the Dragon Zord. Scorpina shakes him off, but Kim flies by catching him, and Tommy tells everyone, I got a plan. You're just gonna have to trust me. So Jason tells him, all right, we will, but right now, we need the Megazord power. Kim swings back, flying close to the Dragon Zord, and she tells him that she hopes that he knows what he's doing. And Tommy jumps up, telling her, I hope I do too. As he gets closer, he kicks in the window of the Dragon Zord cockpit, and he begins to struggle with Scorpina. Jason and the rest of them begin to fight and destroy the shark creature while Tommy battles against Scorpina. But during the struggle, Tommy grabs a hold of the replica dagger and he pulls it out, shattering it on the ground. Scorpina tells him that he can't, and Tommy knocks her away, telling her, I just did. As the battle finishes, all of the Rangers return back to the command center as Jason begins to yell at Tommy for not listening. But Tommy argues that if he didn't, things wouldn't have worked out. They did win, so they should just leave it at that. He then turns to leave, but Zach grabs him, telling him, hey, Jason is still talking to you. And after shaking him off, Tommy drops a green crystal. The argument begins to rise between Tommy and Jason, and just as Tommy attempts to swing at Jason, the crystal begins to shine. Scorpina begins to laugh, stating, it's working! And Alpha says that it's a portal like he's never seen before opening, and then an explosion goes off. The command center begins to crumble, and through the debris, the Rangers begin to crawl out, and Tommy begins to ask if this is another hallucination. But Trini tells him, no, this is real. From the rubble, something begins to climb out and stand above them, and then shrinks back down. The voice of a robot tells them,
hello, I've been looking forward to destroying you for some time now. Who wants to go first?
Not long before the arrival of Tommy, Rita watches the Prime Minister of Italy speaking out to the public that they will not bend to her will and that they are not afraid of her. Shortly after watching that, though, Rita has released a four-armed creature to attack Italy's cities. As the creature begins to destroy the cities, the Power Rangers appear in their Megazord to battle against it. And as the fight went on, the creature turned his attention down towards the fleeing civilians, one of which being the Prime Minister. As the creature reached out to grab him, Jason jumps from the Zord, stabbing the creature in its chest to stop it. Jason then jumped down to the Prime Minister, telling him that they need to hurry and get out of there. But before they could teleport away, the creature gets back up and grabs them. Before it can, though, Zach takes control of the Megazord and cuts through the creature's chest. Kim tells him that that was the best thing that could have happened, a literal killer swipe. And as the Rangers jump down to check on the people, they all begin to cheer for Jason having saved the Prime Minister. As they cheer, Zach turns away, questioning why no one is cheering for him since he was the one who stopped the creature. And then up on the moon, Rita watches and takes notice of Zach's concern. One day back in the States, Zach heads home when a group of putties attack him. Zach manages to fight off several of them, but as the group starts to grow back, they overpower him and Goldar tells them to take him away. A short while later, Zach starts to wake up chained and bound, with Rita's voice telling him that she's sorry about the ambush, but he can have her word that she comes in peace. Zach tells her that he somehow doubts that. Rita waves her arm, removing the chains, telling him that there won't be any tricks, but as you can see, he still has his power coin. In fact, he can leave anytime that he wants. Zach asks what she could possibly want, and she says that just like she said, she has come to talk and express how he handled things in Italy. Because he's the real reason that the Rangers won. It was him who took control of the Megazord when Jason jumped out to run off and be the Glory Hound. Zach watches without saying a word. And Rita tells him that she thinks they may have gotten off on the wrong foot. Let her show him something. The two of them teleport away, and as Zach looks around, Rita says that this is part of her palace. When someone is trapped in a dumpster for 10,000 years, one comes to appreciate open floors. Zach asks if he's supposed to feel sorry for her, and Rita says that she doesn't really want all of this destruction and bad blood between them. Really, it was Zordon who hasn't given her much choice and started using the Zords to attack her. Rita goes on to state that really all she wants to do is help Earth reach its full potential under her leadership. As an orb begins to light up, it shows images of wars across the Earth, and Rita says that they can stop all of these skirmishes. Zach asks her what she means by that, and she tells him that because she thinks that he could be more, he could be on her team. Images start to change to a Green Ranger, and Rita says that under her, he could be the one to lead. He could change the world to a better place. The images show the Green Ranger taking off his helmet, and they reveal Zach. Zach watches the images and says that she's right. They should be doing more. Goldar says that he's making a very smart decision, but as he finishes his sentence, Zach turns back, punching Goldar. Zach quickly catches his coin, but Rita shocks him down and Goldar grabs onto him. Zach manages to punch back Goldar and hit his communicator and teleport out. Back down to the command center, Zach explains to Zordon what happened, and he tells them that for now, that they should keep the situation between themselves so that they don't alarm anyone else on the team. Zach says the weird thing is that they were being honest. He was almost tempted in what he saw. And Zordon tells him that it means that he is human for wanting the best in the world. It is an undeniable and admirable quality. That is why he is honored to work with a Power Ranger such as himself. Back on the moon, Rita sits watching Tommy, stating that they will need to start with a clean slate, someone who isn't already a Power Ranger. And as she says that, a voice tells her that he will leave. He will turn his back and join them. Rita calls out who's there, and a voice tells her that she's truly ready to rule the world. When she sees that he is right, she will then see him. Back in the current time, after the events of the first volume of the story, which you can find a link to down below, the voice has made himself known to the Rangers and told them that he would offer them one chance to surrender, though he already knows what the answer would be. Jason shouts to the Black Dragon that there is no chance in hell that they are surrendering, and he tells him, "Good, I would have thought much less of you otherwise." Just then the Black Dragon opens up its mouth and released a powerful blast, stripping away the Rangers' suits. As he walks towards them, Kim takes out her bow and fires an arrow, stopping the blast. Kim shouts for everyone to hurry and move in, and all of the Rangers jump into attack, but the Black Dragon blasts them away again and knocks Tommy away with his tail. The Black Dragon then grabs a hold of Jason and releases more of the blast directly onto him, and Trini and Billy attack to free him. As the Rangers gather around, Jason tells them that this is his last chance, and the Black Dragon responds with, "I think I'll pass." He holds out his arm and he fires a beam, launching Jason and Trini into a wall. Trini then calls out that they need to retreat before things get worse, and the Black Dragon picks up Tommy, telling him, "You're rather unique. Let's make you a bit more normal then." He begins ripping the dragon armor off, and Zach jumps and swinging his axe, telling him to let go. Jason shouts that he's going to teleport them to a pocket dimension, so hang on, and the Rangers all begin to teleport away. But the Black Dragon grabs Billy and tells him, "Not so fast." As everyone teleports away, the Black Dragon throws Billy to the ground and says, "I only needed one of you." Billy tries to fight back, but after a blast to the face, the Black Dragon throws him to the ground and says out loud, "Rita, they are ready." Meanwhile, the other Rangers are teleported to the pocket dimension, and without Zordon with them, it's beginning to fall apart. Zach asks what happened, and Kim says that it was like someone was peeling the skin off of them with a knife. But as everyone checks on one another, they all notice that Billy isn't with them. Jason scans back to see what's going on in the command center, but Rita's forces have already begun making their way inside. Kim asks Tommy if any of Rita's visions can answer anything about what's going on or who this Black Dragon is, and he says that Scorpina mentioned the crystal was charged with the green chaos energy, but other than that, he has no clue what's going on. Zach tells him that this whole Black Dragon thing is tied to him, and he doesn't know? Tommy shouts no, he doesn't, and Kim jumps between them before the argument can get any further. She tells them both that they're supposed to be friends, and right now, there is another friend who needs them all. As the two of them step back and cool off, Trini looks at a display, asking what they're supposed to do to bring everyone back. Back at the command center, Rita says that she was skeptical of him contacting her at first, but with the exception of losing Scorpina, this operation went much better than expected. The Black Dragon says the Rangers have fled to a pocket dimension, and even without being able to follow them, I have another way to deal with them. Black Dragon grabs Billy's power coin and says that he's going to use it as an access point to the Morphin grid. He holds up the green crystal and he fires a blast through it into the power coin. Back over in the pocket dimension, Tommy explains that it's possible that Rita has taken Billy into the dark dimension. And just as Jason tries to figure out a plan, everyone but Tommy begins to scream in pain. A light shines on everyone and Tommy looks at them all without their powers, asking what's happened. As Rita's forces make their way into the command center, the Black Dragon looks over Jason's Zord, and then he opens his mouth, creating a blast. The Zord's eyes light up, and he tells it, it's time to wake up. Elsewhere in the command center, Rita sits on her throne, stating it's good to be the queen. And then she picks up Alpha's head, asking, wouldn't you agree? She tosses it on the ground, telling the putties to go ahead and melt him down. But as Alpha's head hits the ground, his lights begin to turn on. While everyone tries to figure out what happened to their powers, Tommy heads off on his own, and he watches the video feed from just before the attack. Kim wakes up telling him that she's not sure how watching that is going to help, but they both sit down, and Tommy says so much for making a good first impression. She tells him technically, his first impression was him trying to kill them all. They smile, and Tommy says that he wants to do a good job. And Kim says that right now he's the only one with powers, so something tells her that he's going to have a shot at proving that. But before they can go on, the display changes to Rita, telling the people of Earth, hello! A broadcast around the world plays as Rita tells the world that she has a message of unity today. Their wars have gone on far too long. She is here to give the leaders of the world 24 hours to stand down and pledge allegiance to her before she destroys them. And for those wondering about the Power Rangers, they will not be coming to save them. In fact, she has taken over their home. So they have 24 hours to come to their senses before she releases the Zords and attacks any nation who doesn't pledge loyalty. Tommy and Kim run to the others to see if they are watching this, and they ask what are they supposed to do. Jason says that from what Trini has gathered, it seems the Black Dragon is somehow interfering with them being able to access the Morphin grid, which would explain why Tommy isn't affected. Trini then adds that she wouldn't exactly know where to start. Billy is the one who understood all of this. Tommy tells everyone that he might have a plan because if Billy has been taken to the dark dimension, they could go to Rita's moon base and access the portal there. Since most of her forces are down here, it shouldn't be hard getting in. Zach asks how they're supposed to get there, and Jason and Tommy smile. A short while later, they launch into space in the Dragon Zord, and they land on the moon. The putties on guard begin to notice something in the distance, and then they see the Dragon Zord's eyes begin to glow. Tommy fires missiles at the post and jumps out telling Jason to keep the engine running. While Jason creates a distraction, Tommy sneaks into the base and makes his way to the teleporter room. But before he can access it, the Black Dragon tells him, "Welcome back." Back in the pocket dimension, Zach tells Trini that it might be time for her to take a break. She's been trying to figure this thing out ever since they got here, and Trini says that this was all her fault. She wouldn't have told Jason that they needed to retreat. If they didn't, then maybe. But before she can go on, the screen beeps with an incoming transmission. As Trini looks at the screen, she asks if that's Alpha. Up on the moon, the Black Dragon throws Tommy aside and sees the Dragon Zord and says he's guessing that Jason's up there. But since he doesn't have powers, maybe he should grow to his size to fight? The Black Dragon begins fighting and struggling with the Zord, but he quickly overpowers it and knocks it into the air. Tommy calls out to Jason, but then he feels something grabbing his helmet. The Black Dragon holds Tommy up and tells him, "You have a much bigger problem to worry about." As he holds him up, the Black Dragon goes on to state, "You had it all. Why turn your back on Rita, only to die alone here on the moon?" And Tommy tells him that dying is definitely not a part of the plan. He calls back his dragon armor and slips out from the Black Dragon's grasp, and he tells Jason that he could really use a distraction now. Jason shouts that he's kind of working on it. First, he needs to get things stabilized. He then makes a run for the base, but the Black Dragon stomps in his way, stating, "Nice, but you're not getting off of this moon." After dodging the next attack, Tommy tells him that he wasn't really trying to leave. He just wanted to grab the putty cannon, because low gravity makes holding this thing a lot easier. The cannon goes off, and the Black Dragon claps his hands together, creating a force throwing Tommy away. Tommy tells him that it says an awful lot about him, staying 30 stories tall to fight him. The Black Dragon slowly begins to shrink down in size and says, "You're right. Wouldn't want to give you any excuses for losing, now would I?" Tommy gets back up and he jumps towards him, but the Black Dragon swings his arm, knocking Tommy to the ground. He then takes both of his fists and he slams down on Tommy's helmet over and over, and then he stops. Tommy asks why he's hesitating, and then the roar of the Dragon Zord can be heard as it rockets down towards them. The crash breaks off one of the Black Dragon's arms and throws him to the side. Jason quickly teleports Tommy into the cockpit and says that the putties are fortifying the base. They miss their shot for now. The Black Dragon looks up and sees the Dragon Zord escaping back towards the Earth. And a few moments later in the pocket dimension, Jason teleports in holding Tommy and the Black Dragon's broken arm, telling everyone that he needs some help. Kim asks what happened, but Tommy lays down stating that he's fine. Just give him a few minutes. Jason says the Black Dragon got them separated and Tommy fought as long as he could, but they couldn't find Billy. Trini picks up the broken arm asking what this is, and Jason says he's not sure what they can do with it. Maybe run a scan on it or something? A voice then asks if that's Jason, and Jason runs to the screen asking if it's really Alpha. Alpha says that he was just telling Trini that his backup systems are functional, but for how long is unknown. Trini asks if he was able to see what's going on, and Alpha says that currently their powers in the Zords are being controlled by the Black Dragon using Billy's power coin. Kim asks how he can do that. Who is the Black Dragon anyway? And Alpha tells him that he's not sure. Jason then tells everyone that Rita's time limit is almost up. They need to hurry and figure out a way to get their powers back. Meanwhile, back at the command center, Rita then asks how it is that he just let them go. The Black Dragon tells her, "I underestimated the Green Ranger, but when I destroy him, I want him at full power." And Rita asks him, "And why is that again?" He doesn't say anything as Finster continues working on his arm. And Rita says that she did see what happened on the moon. He had him, but it was as if he hesitated. The Black Dragon stands up stating that he's doing all of this because she couldn't conquer Earth alone, and that is why he is helping. So what he does is none of her concern, but his only request is that he is the only one to destroy the Green Ranger. He snaps his arm back into place and says the next time that he encounters him, he will not hesitate to deliver the final blow. Back over in the pocket dimension, Zack sits with Tommy, telling him that Jason says that he went toe-to-toe with the dragon when he was 30 stories tall. And Tommy says he tried to at least. And Zack says that's pretty ridiculous. But Tommy adds, maybe not one of his best ideas. Zack apologizes to him, stating that he really shouldn't have doubted him because of what Rita did. Heck, only one of them has ever taken on a 30-story monster by themselves, even if that wasn't the best idea. But then something dawns on Tommy. He gets up and asks Trini if the arm can be used to make some kind of a blast on its own. Trini tells him maybe, but why would that even matter? And Tommy says that they've all lost their powers because they were cut off in the Morphin grid, right? So what if they all used his access? Jason asks what does that even mean, and Tommy explains that if they try and morph, they should be able to blast the filter through his coin to give them all his powers. Alpha says that splitting the Green Ranger powers amongst them would provide an alternate way to access the Morphin grid, but it would leave Tommy powerless. As Tommy looks back, he tells them, alone, he won't be able to do much, but with the help of everyone else, well, it's worth a shot. He picks up the arm and he places it over his own, and he tells everyone to get ready. They all get into place, and Jason calls out for them to morph. As everyone calls out their Zords, the green light begins to fill the room with a sudden flash. Tommy looks at everyone and says, that's different. Everyone changed into their power suits, but they're all green. Seconds begin to count down as the Dinozords all take their place around the world, ready for combat. Just 24 hours ago, Rita announced to the world that she has come to rule, and all of the world's leaders will one day pledge their allegiance to her. The Black Dragon, now in control of the Dinozord, stands in Paris ready to attack as the world leaders have chosen not to side with Rita. As the final seconds pass, the red Dinozord begins to growl, and then there's a sudden flash of green light. All of the soldiers watch as Jason, now in his green power suit, teleports in, telling them all not to worry. Help has finally arrived. But just as he finishes his sentence, the Black Dragon fires a beam, blowing up the truck that Jason is standing on, telling him, I see that you have found a, unconventional way to the Morphin grid. However, for you though, it changes nothing as I still have the power to control all of the Zords. Jason picks himself up, telling him, that's funny, because since I was able to morph again, I've had access to my Zord, and so do the others. Just then, Zack, Kim, and Trini all report that they have successfully gained control of their Zords, and the Black Dragon teleports to Billy's Triceratops, telling everyone, you don't have control of all of them. Now it's time to blow you all away. But before he can fire the mounted cannon, 2 laser beams shoot into the side of it, and Tommy tells him, hey, I'm sorry, but that's exactly what I'm not going to let happen. The Black Dragon shouts as he grows to the size of the Dragon Zord, and he punches into its head. He yells to Tommy, there won't be anything to save you this time. And Tommy tells him, yeah, you're right, which is why I'm using the Dragon Dagger this time. Kim then says, besides, this time he's not alone. All of the Rangers begin to surround the Black Dragon, but over in the dark dimension, Billy and Goldar are watching. Billy asks him why he's here to watch him, and Goldar tells him that he was placed here due to his failure to capture the Rangers, and he tells him that he would rather not be here. Goldar scoffs, telling Billy that the Black Dragon should have seen that coming after watching his Zord get blasted. But following up on that, Billy then asks, you really don't like the Black Dragon, huh? And Goldar responds with, do you? Billy asks what does he mean by that, and Goldar explains, the Black Dragon can change his size at will. His armor grows and overlaps in ways that I have never seen before. But as they watch, Billy asks Goldar to zoom in on the Black Dragon's neck. It looks like an access hatch, which then causes Billy to stop and ask the question, how are we even watching this, since you know, we're prisoners and all? Goldar tells him that the dark dimension is his dimension. Just because he is restrained here does not mean that he cannot control it. But as Billy thinks about it, he says, well, if that's the case, you could leave, right? And Goldar stares at him. So Billy continues, telling him, you know, I think you're right. That can't be the Black Dragon's true form. Who else better to learn and understand him then? If you can let me out of here, I can give you a path back to Rita's side. Goldar mutters, enemies of my enemies. He then raises his hand, creating a portal, telling Billy, you make a convincing point. Don't make me regret this. Back in Paris, the fight between the Zords and the Black Dragon rage on, while Tommy continues to control the Dragon Zord. But as he does, he can hear Billy calling out to him, and just as Tommy asks how he's doing this, Billy tells him it's a long story, just know that it was Goldar. However, listen carefully, the Black Dragon is mechanical like all of the Zords. Billy points down to his neck, pointing to the access hatch, and Tommy tells him that he sees it. He then tells Billy to hang on, and he teleports right down to the hatch, and he rips his way in. Once inside with Billy, he looks around, stating that there must be a power source source somewhere. Outside, Jason radios to Tommy, telling him that he could use some help with the Dragon Zord, and Tommy tells him that they're not going to believe this, but him and Billy are inside of the Black Dragon. They have a way to end this. Just then, Tommy breaks the power core and the Black Dragon begins to roar! He falls on his back and he starts to revert to his original size. Billy looks around as the structure begins to shake and he yells, "The Black Dragon is shrinking!" Tommy holds out his arm to teleport, but there appears to be something blocking the signal. As the Black Dragon crashes down, Tommy radios that he doesn't think that they can hold out. Tell his mother that he loves, but then a bright green light covers the streets and the radio goes silent. Jason and the others jump down to the destroyed body of the Black Dragon to look for Tommy and Billy, but they find nothing. However, as Trini looks at the components of the Black Dragon, she says that these all look familiar, like they come from the Dragon Zord. Meanwhile, back at the command center, Rita tells the Black Dragon's spiritual essence that the Rangers have collected his body. How is that even possible? And he says, "Because I was never there. That body was nothing more than a vessel. I know where Tommy and Billy teleported to. My world." Then we see who the Black Dragon really is. An alternate form of the White Ranger. And they have no idea what they're in for. Elsewhere, Billy helps Tommy up and Tommy asks where they are. Billy tells him somewhere bad. And that's when Tommy looks up to see two giant statues, one of Rita and one of the Green Ranger. But while they were being brought to this place, it begins to remind Billy of a time before. A time when the Rangers were all fighting one of Rita's creatures and they needed him. Jason and Trini used their blasters to keep the monsters busy while Billy needed to shoot out a power source. However, when it came time to take the shot, he froze. Kim managed to release an arrow destroying the monster, but the fact remained that Billy hesitated when the Rangers needed him. So from then on, Billy would read self-help books to try and convince himself that he was in fact a hero, not just some nerdy science guy. Soon the time came for him to battle again, but this time he was ready, and he told himself that he can do this. It's all up to him. So without the help from his Zord, he used a putty's body to slingshot an explosive canister into the giant creature's face. Once it was close enough, he then shot his blaster, hitting the canister, causing it to explode and save the day. The only problem was, it was only a training simulator. Zach watched the program run and told Billy that he did an amazing job, but Billy shrugged it off, telling him that it was really nothing. He just needs to go take a shower. Afterwards, Zach asked Alpha how many times Billy had run that simulation, and Alpha tells him that that was his 64th time. So after Billy cleaned up, Zach went to talk to Billy about it, and that's when he noticed all of the self-help books. Zach told him to talk to him. What's going on? Billy says everyone dreamed about being a hero when they were younger, but something deep down inside of them said that there was something special and extraordinary waiting to come out. Everyone believes themselves to be the hero of their own story, except not everyone's cut out for that. So he's just trying to follow these books to help make him believe that he is in fact the hero that everyone sees him as. However, there are times that he's still so afraid. Zach tells him that it's alright. A scared Power Ranger is a smart one. It means that they are people. The thing is, they're not alone. They have each other to lean on when things get hard. And there's no way of just following some formula. Just know that no matter what, these challenges that they face, Billy doesn't have to face them by himself. So the next day, Billy thought long and hard about what Zach told him and decided that he was right. He doesn't need a self-help book to learn how to be a hero. He can do it all on his own, with the help of his friends. But that's just a story of how Billy decided to get the courage to help the team out. So we need to go back to the current times, when Tommy and Billy get up and look around. That's when they hear an announcement begin to play. The voices welcome those listening to the historic Angel Grove, the place where Empress Rita Repulsa brought order and structure to the world through the destruction of Zordon and his minions. However, the current time is 8 p.m. and all museums are now closed. The curfew is officially in effect. All of the citizens begin to return to their homes immediately, and by order of Lord Draken, they ought to have a pleasant evening. Tommy says that he has so many questions, and Billy tells him that that would be understandable. He goes on to state that this place appears to be Angel Grove, but when and even what version remains to be unanswered. But before they can further guess where they are, a voice calls out to them that it is curfew! They turn around to see a Black Ranger holding a rifle, and the Ranger tells them, just go ahead and show me your IDs. Tommy tries to say that they mistakenly got off at the wrong stop, and they'll be going on their way now. However, as Tommy tries to go on, the Ranger notices the dragon dagger and grabs a hold of him. Billy uses this moment to knock over the Ranger, hitting him in the back of the head, and then him and Tommy begin to run. While they escape, the Ranger calls out over the radio that they have an Alpha alert. 2 suspects on foot, considered to be armed and dangerous. Billy leads Tommy over to where the command center was supposed to be, but instead he finds a correctional facility. The Ranger from before catches up shouting for them not to move, and he fires his rifle as more Black Rangers begin to show up. Tommy looks over the cliff at the water down below, and he says that it looks like it's time for them to get wet. Those odds seem a lot better than sticking around here. The Rangers all begin to shoot at them, and just as Tommy and Billy land in the water, one of the Rangers says to the other that they need to let Lord Draken know of this. Meanwhile, Back in that pocket dimension, Trini sifts through the Black Dragon's parts and says that she may have found something. After comparing the images her and Billy got when they were going through the Dragon Zord, a lot of these parts are the same. Kim says that whoever built the Black Dragon copied the Dragon Zord, and Trini tells her no, they're the same, like the exact same, which should be impossible. Jason then says that if he's following her, the Black Dragon didn't come from another world, it came from theirs. Kim shouts that that's crazy. Is time travel even possible? And Zack says that it's no weirder than the power coins and giant dinosaurs that they're riding in. So Kim responds with, actually, good point. Jason looks at the Black Dragon's remains and asks, if that's the case, who built this then? Back with Tommy and Billy, the two cross the waters and they walk up to what used to be the command center. But before them is the scattered bits of the Zords. Billy looks around, telling Tommy that judging by the remains of the Zords, this was a vicious battle. And then a voice chimes in stating, it was a vicious battle indeed. Tommy asks, did you just? And Billy tells him no, but he heard it too. It came down from that hole. Tommy shouts down to the hole asking if anyone's there, and the voice then responds, now you are Tommy Oliver and Billy Cranston, though not the ones that I know. Tommy jumps down and Billy tells him to wait, but Tommy says that the voice knows them and they're underneath the command center, so it's worth a risk. After landing, Tommy walks down a narrow pathway, asking the voice, how do you know us? And the voice tells him, that is rather complicated, but one thing that I can answer as soon as you get me out of here. Tommy walks up to a sealed door and the voice said, if you want your answers, all you need to do is open this door. So Tommy does just that and the voice shouts, finally, I can see. Tommy looks in to see a floating sword, and the sword says, not quite what you were expecting. You can call me Sabban. Billy shouts down in the hole asking what's going on, and then another light shines down. Tommy climbs out of the hole as the Black Rangers all begin to surround them again, and Sabban shouts, we mustn't stay here, we have to move before. But then another ship lands, and out steps the White Ranger. He tells Tommy and Billy that he is Lord Draken. Tommy shouts, you must be the leader here. Well, you have no idea who you're dealing with. So Draken pulls off his helmet and says, oh, I'm sure that I do. You're nothing more than a lesser version of me. Tommy and Billy look up to see a darker and older looking version of Tommy, and Billy says that they can probably rule out that this is modern day Angel Grove. Tommy can't believe it and he tells Billy that it's not him, and Draken says, no, I'm a much better version. Now lock them up and leave the saber. Sabban tells Draken that he's sorry, but I have different plans for this evening. And Sabba's eyes begin to light up and there's a rumble in the ground, and a giant Zord claws its way out roaring. Draken shouts for everyone to get to the cannons as Sabban tells the two to come this way. Billy asks where they're going. All of the Zords are destroyed, and the group walks up to the Falcon Zord, and Sabba's eyes light up, telling them, looks can be deceiving. Moments later, the Falcon Zord begins to take off and Draken watches as the three escape. Meanwhile, back at the command center, all of Rita's minions welcome back Goldar from his exile as him and Rita make their way to the throne room. Rita announces that even with the Rangers taking down the Black Dragon, their efforts did bore quite an assortment of fruit. They may no longer have their Zords, but they do have their home, and their old sage is gone along with Billy and Tommy. The Rangers are at their weakest, and they will continue to apply pressure. Rita then calls Finster, and he states that he made his most ambitious and inspired creation yet. But unfortunately, there are still things that only he can provide. And he looks at Goldar. Goldar says that he doesn't understand what is he making, and Rita laughs, telling him, oh Goldar, we're making a much better you. Back over in the other timeline, Sabban lands the Falcon Zord, telling them that they will rest here tonight and allow the fuel cells to recharge overnight. The Falcon Zord will provide you a shelter until we reach our destination. Billy stops him right there asking, where are we heading? And Sabban tells him, that is an excellent question. Through my connection to the Morphin grid, I have managed to locate the location of the Coinless, a resistance group of sorts. Together with them, we can seek out Draken and put an end to all of this. Tommy stops him. Whoa, 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 whoa. We're not just joining up with anyone. And Billy says, that's right. Though we appreciate your help, we would like some answers. So Sabban tells them, very well. As you can see, there are some elements in this world that are the same and some are different. Now, how we've arrived to this point requires a bit of understanding of this world. It all started with the arrival of the Green Ranger. Back when the Power Rangers first fought against him, they did manage to break the spell that Rita put over him. However, with his own free will, he chose to go back to Rita and remain faithful to her. In the coming years, Tommy led Rita's armies and ultimately began to dismantle the world in an effort to liberate it. As the cities and nations fell underneath Rita's control, they soon began to accept her rule, and thus her power grew. With one last chance for hope, Zordon sought to achieve a new power, and if harnessed, create a Ranger stronger than anyone who had come before them. The one to lead was going to be Jason Scott, and on the eve of what was known as the fall of the Rangers, they worked to harness the white light. Now with the Rangers summoned from all over, they formed an army to allow the process to complete. However, Tommy brought the charge right to the command center's doorsteps. While the battle outside began, Tommy made his way into the command center while Jason was undergoing the White Ranger transformation. The two battled, and after the white light shined over everyone turned back to see Tommy step out, wearing the White Ranger suit, now holding Jason's crushed helmet. And that was the beginning of the end. Tommy then asks, if that was the case, how do you fit into all of this? Sabban explains that he was designed to be the partner for the White Ranger, but as Jason fell in battle, Zordon took steps to make sure that I didn't fall into Tommy's hands. I was the last steward of Zordon, a failsafe if you will, but only to be awoken by someone pure, which is why I knew who you were. Tommy hangs his head, telling him, well, at least one of you are. But as Billy tries to tell him that that's not the case, Tommy goes on telling him he knows, different alternate world. It's just hard seeing a version of himself that went evil though. What if he just hasn't turned evil yet? A voice then interrupts them, telling Tommy, it was awfully risky coming out here. Electric bindings begin to wrap up Billy and Tommy, and the woman looks down, asking if they would like to explain who they really are. Now, in the recently taken over command center, Finster puts on the finishing touches to his new and improved Goldar sculptures, telling Goldar that he is indeed quite interesting. With a scowl, Goldar says, and yet, you think of ways to improve me? Then Rita's voice tells him, that's what collaboration is all about, isn't it? Goldar quickly kneels before Rita, and she tells him to stand up. They don't want Finster here to be thrown off his game. Goldar says that he is honored to be allowed to be back by her side, but is she really sure that this is the best course of action? He could! But Rita cuts him off, telling him no, not by himself or with an army of putties, which is why she is giving him an army that a warrior of his stature deserves. However, if he is unsuccessful in this attempt, Goldar interrupts, telling her that he will not fail. He has already been planning battle plans. Finster looks over at his shelf, stating that it seems that he's going to need more clay, but he'll only be a moment. A short while later, as Finster heads into the back room, he looks through the storage and then he finds something else that could be of use. Over in the dark timeline, Aisha leads Tommy and Billy through the mountains when Billy asks who exactly is in charge of the resistance. A voice calls from the top of the cliff, telling him that it's him, and everyone looks up to see Zack. Tommy shouts that he isn't Drakon. Seeing himself as Drakon was as much of a surprise to himself as they can imagine. Without answering him, Zack turns to Sabban and tells him hello. Sabban is the sword that the White Ranger uses, and it is sentient and is able to talk. And Zack asks him if he remembered the last time that they talked. Sabban tells him, yes, I do. It was that day that I said that I would return with one who would save this world, and as promised, I have returned. Zack tells Aisha to untie the two of them and bring them inside, and Aisha asks if he's really sure about this. Zack says call it intuition, and then he opens up the access door to the Resistance hideout. As the group heads down into the rundown facility, Zack says Aisha will show them all to their quarters. Meanwhile, over at Drakon's base, the Ranger forces report that the pursuit of Tommy and Billy has ended with them escaping in the Falcon Zord. Drakon tells him that it doesn't matter. He knows where they're headed. The bigger issue here is that the Yellow Sabertooth forces allowed them to escape. The commander tries to explain, but Drakon grips down on his throat, telling him, I will not stand for that level of ineptitude. Now consider your powers revoked. A light shines over the commander as the powers are forcibly removed, and the commander is dragged away. Scorpina then says that he sure does have an interesting leadership style, and Drakon tells her that when the time is right, we'll find a way to bring you back to your world. But first, there is an issue with the Rangers. Back in the light timeline, in a pocket dimension, Trini continues to go over the remains of the Black Dragon when there's a sudden call from Alpha. He tells everyone that, he's so sorry for being out of touch for so long, but he believes that he may have found a weakness in Rita's fortification. You'll be able to take back the command center and retrieve your powers too! As the Rangers in the light timeline prepare to move out, Billy in the dark timeline wanders through the Resistance halls, and he overhears some of the others stating that he looks just like him. As Billy walks into the records room, he sees a photo of this universe's Billy with the words, in loving memory. As Trini eats alone, Billy walks up to her asking, how did it happen? How did I die? Trini hesitates for a moment and then tells him that their Billy died a hero during the Great Battle. He died saving her life. Over in the control room, Zack explains that day, the day that they all fell, the day that Drakon slowly took over. After ripping out his power coin, he managed to knock Drakon away, and he also got him to release his grip on Sabban. But it was then that Sabban escaped and they never saw him again until today. But before they could go on, Bulk runs in telling them that they have a problem. Drakon knows that they're here, and he's planning on mounting a huge attack. However, just then there's a loud explosion and Zack tells him, it's already too late. Back in the light timeline, Jason goes over Alpha's plan with the other Rangers, and Alpha says, this is so exciting! I cannot wait to see you again! Over in the command center, Finster pulls the wire from Alpha's head, and Rita tells him, excellent work! and then asks Goldar if he's ready. Goldar tells her, yes, all of us are ready. A short while later, on the ground of the command center, Alpha continues directing the Rangers to the entrance of the hidden pathway inside. Zack tells Alpha to just hang tight, they're almost there, and that's when the Rangers stop. They see Alpha, and he says, I'm so excited to see you again. Sadly though, I'm afraid you may not feel the same. Everyone looks ahead to see in their path is Goldar and an army of sculpted clones. Back in the dark timeline, Drakon begins his assault on the Resistance hideout and quickly breaks a hole into the main shield surrounding the compound. Trini jumps at a computer, going over the damage, and she sees that Drakon's forces have damaged one of the shield generators. Zack tells her all right, and then the two of them take some reinforcements to the breach point to get the generator back online. Billy asks if he really wants him to go too, and Zack says that if he's just as tech savvy as their Billy, perhaps he can help. Billy says he'll do his best. Billy and Trini head off, and Bulk says that there's no connection to their pulse cannons. They're going to need a team to go, but Zack stops him, telling him that the route's cut off. They'll be gunned down before they can get anywhere close to those cannons. Tommy then says that maybe he could go help with that. He has an idea. That is, if Sabba's up for it. And Sabba says, anything that you need, Tommy. Meanwhile, in the light timeline, the Rangers fight against the Goldar clones, and Jason asks if they really found a way to clone Goldar. Alpha says, not clone, improve on. All of the physical skill, but none of the pesky mental shortcomings of the original. Trini hacks off one of the sculpture's arms, shouting that she doesn't care what they're doing to Alpha. All of these clones are just sculptures. They're useless without their limbs. The Goldar clone grabs his severed arm, and he laughs as he reattaches it, lunging back into the fight. The clones begin closing in, and Kim shouts that they really need to get out of here, so go high! Both Kim and Zack aim high and they start firing into the ceiling, causing a cave-in and create an escape route. As the rocks pile up on the clones, everyone scrambles to climb out, and as they do, they start to see the towering Zord-sized Goldars looking right at them. Back in the dark timeline, Billy and Trini get to work repairing the generators, and as they finish one, Trini says that they need to figure out something before the hole gets worse, and they come for the relic. Billy says that he's heard them say relic a few times already. What exactly is the relic? Trini tells him that it's something that they've held onto for years, but never used in fear of Drakon being able to get a hold of it. She then pulls out a morpher with Billy's power coin. It says that when Drakon was taking over, Billy lived long enough to get the coin and her to safety. She managed to keep the Triceratops power coin safe for all of these years, and as long as they have it, there's hope. In the light timeline, the Rangers call on the aid of their Zords to help them battle the giant Goldars. But even then, the Zord strength is not enough. One of the Goldars tackles the Sabertooth Zord, and they pull Trini out, and Rita shouts for them to bring her in! Back in the dark timeline, the Pink Ranger snipers move in and they begin to pin down the Resistance. But before Tommy can help with the Falcon Zord, Drakon lands on top of it. He rips the hatch open and he jumps in, telling Tommy, hello again. Seconds later, the Falcon Zord falls out of the sky, and as Sabba calls out to Tommy, Drakon shouts, silence! You both belong to me now! As the rest of the forces move in, Drakon holds out Sabba to Tommy's neck, telling everyone to lay down their arms and pledge allegiance to him, or they will join this imposter's fate. From inside, Billy and Trini watch, and Trini quietly tells Billy that he can morph and face him as the Blue Ranger. Billy looks at the coin, telling him that he doesn't think that he can. Outside, Tommy raises the sword, telling everyone, this is your last chance! Tommy hangs his head ready to accept what's coming, and then Billy's voice echoes, shouting, wait! Wait! Both Billy and Trini step out, with Billy holding the power coin, and Trini stating that they surrender. At the time of the Black Dragon's arrival in the real world, Zordon watched the Rangers fade as he was pulled into a time portal. But rather than being taken to the other time, Zordon was able to stay between the timelines, allowing him to see what happened. You see, the Rangers in this world were affected by what Draken decided to do. No, what Tommy decided to do. And Zordon was able to watch things from the very beginning. As the window in the dark world became clear, Zordon could see his other self, the dark world version of himself, telling his Rangers, the dark world version Rangers, that even though they won their battle against Tommy the Green Ranger, a servant of Rita, he has yet to break free from Rita's influence. The dark world Zordon says that they must believe that Tommy will do the right thing, that good will triumph over evil. But that's when the view changes, and instead of Tommy leaving Rita's forces, like we all know in the proper timeline, he is instead pledging his allegiance to her. With little choice, the Dark World Zordon sought out the help of others, bringing on new Zords and even newer allies. However, even still, with the Dark World Tommy growing in power, defeating even all of these new Rangers, the other Zordon never gave up. He always believed that goodness would prevail. And in his final moments, Tommy became Drakon, and he captured Sabba. And the Dark World Zordon still
never stopped believing that this Tommy Oliver would have a chance to do what is right. In the end, Drakon rejected Zordon's offer to become good, and he banished him into the space in between. The space between time and space itself. And at that moment, Zordon witnessed the Dark World version of himself appear before him, telling him that he can see that he is already dying. The other self then asks, "What do you make of what you've seen?" And Zordon tells him that he does not know. The Tommy of his world rejected Rita outright. None of this has happened. The other self then tells him, "Sounds nice. Very nice indeed. However, my time is not long. But I do want to tell you one thing. There is no regret in any of the actions that he has taken, or of the hope that he has placed. Things may not have gone the way in which he desired, but he believed that there will be good people making good decisions. And even now, the choices that he made allowed him to see his other self, and to say that no matter what, to stay true to their beliefs, he must trust in the Power Rangers. Always." As the Dark World Zordon faded from existence, Zordon couldn't tell that if it was because of him witnessing his own death or seeing what happened in the alternate world, but he now truly felt lost. The portal's effects allowing him to see another timeline began to fade, and just as he does, a voice calls out to Zordon, a voice telling him it will be okay. Sabban appears shouting, "I finally found you. By using my connection to the Morphin grid, I can keep you tethered to our world, Zordon." However, as Sabban talks, he realizes something is different. The person that I speak to is Zordon, but not my Zordon. Sabban then says, "It would seem that I was not fast enough." And Zordon tells him, "No, you were not. But there is still hope in saving my timeline. In the years to come, the Rangers from my world will arrive, including another Tommy Oliver." Sabban asks if he can believe in his Tommy. And our Zordon tells him, "Yes, I do." Sabban then tells him, "If you truly believe in him, then I too shall believe." Over in the Dark World, during the struggle with Zack and Drakon, it is the time where Drakon has stripped Zack of his power coin. As Zack fought back, he saw Sabban leave and he asked, "Where are you going?" Zordon, through Sabban, tells Zack, "Have faith. Our war is not yet lost. Hope will be coming, but you must keep everyone alive until then. One day I will return with those who will save the world." And Zack tells him that he understands, and with that, Sabban fades. The story of how Drakon came to be has finally been revealed. But now that we've revealed that story, it's time for us to conclude the overarching plot. It's time for us to see how we will deal with Drakon, because we are now at the end, my dear viewers. As Billy agrees to Drakon's terms of surrender, over in the real world, Rita tells Trini that soon it will all be over. However, as Billy prepares to hand over the power coin, he mentions that there is something that he's been thinking about and he wanted to clear up. For him to warp their powers, he would have to have used a crystallized piece of the Morphin grid that Rita was supercharging with green chaos energy, right? Well, it turned out that their world's Trini used the same technology that the Black Dragon used when they built the Morphin shield generators. Trini then steps up, telling them the point that they're trying to make is that because they have the same type of access, they could do the same to them. And actually, he did us a favor by letting us get this close. Trini holds out the power coin as it begins to shock and strip Drakon of his ranger powers, and at the same time, over in the real world, the captured Trini calls on the power of the Black Dragon armor. Trini grabs the power coin that was taken from their Billy and says that using this tech, she could energize the coin and give them access to Billy's Zord. As the blue Triceratops begins to form, Jason, Kim, and Zack all begin to get their access back into the Morphin grid. Jason quickly calls out to Trini to pass the controls to her and Billy's Zords because it's time to make the Megazord! While Jason and the others start to suit up, Trini stands over Rita telling her, it's over. Rita laughs, telling her, I've been alive for 10,000 years! I've seen hundreds of Zordon's minions fall, and you are no better! Trini tells her to prove it. Face her. And Rita starts to glow as she teleports, as she says, there will be another time, and I promise. A few moments later, the Megazord cuts down on the last giant Goldar, and Trini radios in that they need to hurry up and get back to the command center. She's got something big going on. Everyone teleports in, and Zack asks what's happening, so Trini tells them that when she was in the Black Dragon armor, the sensors picked up something huge. It came from the Triceratops coin, except it was the coin from the Dark World. Essentially, since the dimensional fields are still weak from the last time a portal was opened, they should be able to use the Black Dragon to basically pry their way in and see if that could have been their Billy trying to contact them. Over in the Dark World, Drakon looks at his smoldering power coin and his stripped powers, and Tommy tells him, yeah, your powers are gone, along with half of your army. So now it's your turn to surrender. And just as he says that, some of the Black Ranger tanks that were positioned outside get within firing range and the blasts begin to go off. Zack tells the Resistance that they need to move out. They have to take care of those tanks, and Draken pulls out his dragon dagger, telling Tommy, "You must be feeling proud." But it still doesn't matter. The fact remains, I am still better than you. Tommy lunges in with his dagger and Sabban, clashing and telling Draken, "Maybe I did need my friends to get this far, but I'm okay with that." Draken pushes back, telling him, "You are truly a fool. Friends are not a source of strength. They are a liability. Because when you really need them, they won't be there." Just as the Black Ranger forces begin to take down the Resistance, a green light shines and then it opens up a portal. Jason, Kim, Trini, and Zack jump out, and Tommy says, "Speak of the devil." Jason and the others start to fight off the Black Ranger forces, and they say that they can handle this, but those tanks! Seconds later, the tanks begin to explode, and Bulk starts to laugh as he's sitting on the cannons. The duel between Tommy and Draken continues, and Tommy says that all of these people are afraid of you. They're not loyal. They don't even respect you. And Draken catches himself, telling Tommy, "Mark my words, your faith in your friends will be your downfall. The only people that you can rely on is yourself." Tommy steps forward, telling him, "That argument really isn't winning the war." And Draken smirks, telling him, "Maybe not." He then jumps off the back of the cliff, telling him, "It's only one day." And as the last of Draken's army is pushed back, everyone begins to celebrate. In the Dark World, Zack looks at his counterpart, telling him, "Yeah, this is all pretty weird." The Real World Zack says, "Man, it's good to know that I still look good, but I have so many questions." The Dark World Zack says that they've seen enough time travel movies to know that that's not a good idea. But there's still one piece of advice that he will give his counterpart, and that is to tell the others about Rita's offer to have Zack join them. That is a storyline that we didn't cover, but it was a single issue. Trini calls out that they need to hurry up. The Black Dragon powers are almost perked up, and if they don't leave, they might not be able to get back. As everyone gets ready to jump back through the portal, the Dark World Zack stops Jason and Kim and hugs them, telling them, "It's good to see you both again." The Dark World Trini stops Billy, telling him that it was a pleasure getting to know him again, really. And Billy tells her that he owes her a bit of thanks too, for everything. As everyone returns to the damaged command center, Zack says that he has one question. "What the heck is that sword?" Sabban tells him that is a wonderful question. "I was built to aid the White Ranger, however, through a series of events, I also became the tether to our Zordon." Kim shouts, "That's great news!" And Zack sighs, telling him, "Apart from having to rebuild the command center," and so the Rangers were finally able to have their normal lives again. Tommy went to go see his mother, and Jason gladly gave him back the Green Ranger Power Coin. The next day at school, Bulk and Skull asked Tommy if he would like to say anything to the Power Ranger Nation, and Tommy says that he does have something. The Power Rangers may seem like bright colors and anti-moon witches, but truly they are much more than that. They care about each other, and that is an amazing thing. If they can band together against overwhelming odds, put aside their differences and believe in each other, then everyone should be able to do that. And so long as everyone does, there will always be hope. However, elsewhere, Draken begins to look around, asking, "Where am I?" And a bright light shines down and the US military move in.
And that was the Power Rangers crossover event known as Shattered Grid. Definitely one of the best Power Rangers stories out there, written by Kyle Higgins. What did you guys think of this story? Please be sure to let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, buddy.